Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of From No Crypto to No Crypto. I'm your host, Crypto Coach, Blockchain Wayne. Today we're joined by Graham Ferguson from Omni Network. Graham, man, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely want to dive into what you guys are doing at Omni, simplifying the user experience. Right, we talked about that before hitting this record button, and it's a big narrative that needs to be emphasized more. But man, before we jump into what you're doing at Omni, can you give us a little insight into your background, man? Kind of what you did before
Yeah.
Omni, what you maybe if you did anything before crypto and Web3, what that may be as well.
Yeah. So high level, originally from Chicago. I live in New York now. Born and raised there. And then right out of undergrad, I did consulting for a year. It wasn't for me. Got into startups. Had a passion for startups and building relationships, and found myself doing sales and ops at a fintech in New York after I moved here during the pandemic. Did that for a couple of years, and then it was mid 2021, late 2021, middle of the last cycle where I discovered crypto, and I was just fascinated by everything. I actually originally got into this space through the Solana ecosystem, so started meeting some folks just being here in New York, and was just fascinated by that sort of OG suite of protocols and those teams and the community that they built, and decided, man, I want to do this full time. There's such an opportunity here. Pursued a job at the team that became Say. So if you're familiar with Say, Layer 1, joined them early on as our first BD hire. This was back in early 2022. And then as we all know, a lot of bad things happened in 2022. But I stuck it out, and I was there for almost 2 years. Learned a ton of lessons. Really, really grateful to see a lot of growth there, despite us being in the depths of a bear market. And then after about 2 years, I think it's something that happens at startups. You're just traveling a bunch, Wayne, as you know, and just working a bunch. You kind of get a little burnt out at times. And so I just needed to unplug, took a bit of break. And then found the folks at Omni. This was about a year ago now. Just really captivated by the mission of just simplifying the user experience. Straight up too complicated today. We got to make it easier for folks. And I think about onboarding my parents, my grandparents. It's just too complicated for them today. So that's the TLDR on what we're looking to solve at Omni.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, going through working for a company, especially I get it with the BD and traveling, but working in a company during a bear market, I mean, that year and a half to 2 years of experience is really worth, I think, 5 to 10 years in the real world, right? I mean, you get to learn a lot, learn how to operate lean. You see a lot of companies that really just weren't prepared for it, but
you see a lot of people leave too. That's the other thing. I wish I had $1 for everybody that at that time decided to go pursue AI. Now a lot of them are coming back, or maybe combining the two.
Yeah. So they're either coming back trying to combine them, or I'm having people reach out. Hey man, you know anybody that's hiring right now, because they know that all these companies are starting to ramp up. But definitely, exactly. The user experience is key. I mean, it's important, and everybody can help solve an aspect of that. I mean, we see great developers, great companies and projects build great tools, but without a simple user experience, it doesn't matter because your mainstream people aren't going to use it. It's like we've been willing to take those hurdles and be early in this and learn how to navigate it, even though it's complicated. Even today, when you're trying to, like you said, bridge or swap or send, all those processes can be too complicated, or you make a crucial mistake where you could lose everything. I mean, that's not really user friendly. And we can't say, everybody just needs to learn how to do better. Now we've got to give them some tools,
right.
some guardrails, right? You're on the edge, and let's just put some guardrails on that edge so they don't fall off. And I think that's also why I think some people are getting disillusioned and leaving, because it's too complicated for most people right now. And so in some cases, I was talking to somebody earlier today on a similar interview, and it's like, they had a great concept, but they're just too early. Like the tech, like nobody's ready for that yet. And that company didn't make it. But I obviously I think something in that shell of a company in the next wave could potentially, rise from the ashes and be something, because if we focus on simplifying the user experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's jump in. So you're at Omni now. So what do you do for Omni?
Yeah, so at Omni, handle all things go to market, growth related, right? So, like right now we just rolled out our mainnet a few weeks back. Super excited to see some transactions being funneled through our tech, which has been sweet. Um, and really was just proud of the community's sort of response to it. I thought it was cool to see a lot of engagement. We had a lot of great partners that were getting involved as well, which has been pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, for us today, just to kind of give a high level of our product and sort of what we offer, right now, if you go to, well, I'll just use our first build partner as an example. So perhaps you've heard of Symbiotic. It's a restaking juggernaut of a protocol. It's about 2.3 bill worth of TVL. Right now, you can only deposit into Symbiotic if you're on Ethereum L1, right? And so, but what if I have funds on Base or OP or Arbitrum or somewhere else on Ethereum, right? What I have to do today is I have to go and I have to figure out how to bridge. Maybe I'm not the most sophisticated crypto user. Maybe I'm new to the space, right? I have to go leave the UX. I have to go figure out how to bridge. Maybe I go to ChatGPT to figure out how to bridge, or I go to Google or whatever. And I don't know what bridge to use, right? And so I'm just kind of beholden to the internet to tell me what to do. We think, man, there's got to be a better way, right? And so what we've done is we're in the process of building a network of solvers that on the back end will just handle all these complex activities, right? So whether it's switching RPCs or managing different wallets and assets, bridging, right? I think is the big one that comes to mind. You're able to deposit into any of these applications with just one click without having to worry about, any of these other complexities. And so we've identified Symbiotic as our first build partner. They've been great to work with so far. We're super pumped to be cheering them on as they get closer to their mainnet. We'll be working with them to initially accept deposits on Base seamlessly and then expanding from there. So for me, that's my chief focus. We're working with them. We also have a couple other partners that are lined up that we'll be sharing soon. But really, our goal is to work with these teams, simplify their user experience, make it easy for them to ultimately expand their total addressable market. So that's really my number one focus. There's always a lot of activity on CT as well, crypto Twitter, right? So keeping the community engaged and just being, keeping track of relevant narratives, and how we can kind of incorporate those into our day to day. And we just had a brainstorm internally on AI agents, which kind of seem to be everywhere today. Is there something we can do there, right, to incorporate that, to streamline whatever we're working on? So I love it, man. It's there's no other place I'd rather be. I think it's a super fun, fast moving industry, and the best part about it is that no 2 days are the same.
Absolutely, man. And it's exciting to see because I told you before we started this that the last few talks I've given have been about simplifying the user experience, because I realize we need to be able to onboard the masses, and to do that, it's got to be simple. It's got to be easy. If it's not easy and they don't see enough benefit of why I need to do this now, they're just going to go away. But kind of just like a lot of what we do is simplify the sending and receiving process, but bridging is just as much a big risk, for people, because let's face it, the University of Google is not really best at giving good results, or whoever pays results.
And I think too, I mean, you got to think back to when you first got into the space, right? And like put yourself in that seat. I remember when I first started getting into crypto, that I had a buddy of mine tell me about this great new it was Time and Wonderland. I remember those days. It took me forever to figure out how to bridge. I had funds in Coinbase. How do I get that onto Avalanche to be able to use this app I want to use, right? And like, I think remembering that sort of mindset and mentality, and I remember when I used to bridge between chains, it would take a long time, right? Too, and you're kind of like stressing out, like, what's going on? Did I do this right? So putting yourself in the shoes of that person that is new to the space is super, super important. I think we just forget about that today.
Yeah, when you hit that send button and it doesn't show up quite right away, you start freaking out. Same like you're talking about with the bridge, where you hit that bridge, but you finish it, it doesn't really happen. And I'll tell you, I tell a lot of people like that, like, man, I've got this USDC or something else on this chain, and I need it on another chain. Depending on what it is, like right now, I'll tell them to avoid a bridge. Like, hey, deposit this into this exchange, which you have access to, and then they allow you to withdraw it on these networks, and you can like withdraw it on this chain, and deposit on this chain,
Yep.
on another chain, and even that's not user friendly, but it's
Yeah.
maybe a little bit less.
Yeah.
Than,
I mean, I've been directing my buddies that are not in the space. They're at least over the last several months, they've been asking, "Hey, what should I do? What should I be?" And they ask like, "All right, what should we do in Ethereum?" And because that's the household name that they'll know. And honestly, with the way that the ETH landscape is today, with all these different L2s and how expensive it is to transact on L1, I tell them just go to Solana. Mess around on Solana. It's a one-stop shop. You don't have to worry about bridging. You can purchase your assets on a centralized exchange, send them to your Phantom wallet. You can even do it through your Phantom wallet. It's just a lot easier. And I think Ethereum used to be like this. If you remember the earlier days, I mean, it was even really before my time too. It was so expensive back when I started getting into the space. But we got to get back to our roots, man. It's got to be. We got to make it more simple. And I think the roll-up centric roadmap has taken us down this long and winding path. But there is an opportunity to get back to that simplicity that Solana has really nailed recently.
Yeah, definitely. So what do you see in terms of at Omni Network? I guess let me ask this question first. Omni Network, is it a blockchain or is it just an abstraction layer? How do you
Yeah, so that's a good question. So the architecture itself, Omni is a customized version of the diamond stock, so it is technically a layer one. But what we like to think of ourselves is just what you said. It's an abstraction layer that's really taking away these complexities, right? And so Omni has two core components. There's the Omni core, which is a messaging layer, right? So you can think of it akin to the large messaging layers that are out there today. And it's communicating across all the networks that are integrated into the messaging layer, right? So the initial networks are going to be ETH layer 1, Arbitrum, Optimism, Base, and then other L2s are fairly straightforward. Actually, any EVM chain is fairly straightforward to integrate. But our approach to that has been, if teams come to us and say, "Hey, we would really like it if you integrated this application. We'd love to accept deposits this network. We'd love to accept deposits from, I don't know, Avalanche or Say or Injective, any of these other EVM chains." It's fairly straightforward. And so our EVM growth is going to be dependent on our customers and just pulling in feedback from them. But the one chain that we get a lot of requests for, which I'm super excited about, and we're going to be prioritizing this later this year, is going to be Solana. And I think any opportunity to be able to give users the ability to deposit into historically Ethereum-based protocol from their Phantom wallet, right, or they're using their Solana balance, like that's a game changer. And so that's what we're super excited for, like further downstream. But then, like I said, so there's that Omni core functionality, which is that messaging layer, right, which is verified by that layer 1. And then the second component of the protocol that we're working on it's called Omni Solver Net. And that is that network of solvers, right, that is solving intents for users, right? So an intent, I mean, I'm sure you're familiar, but folks aren't. We love to use these grossly overcomplicated terms to describe very simple things. But an intent is any action that a user wants to perform on chain, right? So it's a deposit, it's a $10 borrow, whatever you. And the solver net routes those intents to a network of solvers that wants to solve those, and ultimately provide the user with their with that intent that they want to perform on chain. So that's the second component.
And if I remember right, I saw you guys were shooting for that around middle of the year for like being live mainnet, like not on testnet, but live too.
Yeah, probably. I think the first customer, the first protocol that's going to be using SolverNet, which is Symbiotic, is going to be going live. I think later Q1, actually Q1 or maybe early Q2, just depending on timing there. But planning on expanding the service area there quite a bit over the next several months. So super pumped for that.
Nice. So I'd love to also talk about, one thing you guys have built a pretty good sized community, right? That's one of the things I remember when I was looking into the project, when I saw that we were going to do this podcast, and I saw you have a pretty good community size. And you talked about kind of engaging in them on X, on crypto Twitter. What have you seen has been the biggest challenges in terms of building that community that big? Um, just
Yeah.
in terms.
I would say like it's this space. I mean, as you know, is so challenging 'cause it's so fleeting and things move so fast. And so I think, and we don't have a huge team, and we're relatively, I would say, a relatively small team. Honestly, I feel like um, compared to some others that are similar to us. But it's continuing to follow relevant narratives and also just pump out content. I think that's something that so many folks are reluctant to do. At least personally, like I can't speak for everybody else on the team, but like stop caring. Like just throw
Yeah,
stuff out there, see what sticks. I mean, I think one thing that my team experimented a lot with earlier this year was just throwing out ideas for different types of projects and different types of products that we'd like to see go live. And it came from a place of, all right, man, we're doing all of this outbound work. We're trying to get people to think about us and look at us and like all of that. And I think instead of just being in the DMs trying to talk to folks, why don't if there's a way for us to flip that on its head, it would be super beneficial for us. And so I just started, putting out different product ideas. I think I put one out. It was like, VC perps or like angel perps. Like if I could bet on like Ansem's bag versus Kobe's bag, like stuff like that, right? Just dumb, crazy stuff. And a lot of that kind of took off, right? And people were like, oh, this is actually interesting. Like this is something that maybe users would like to have access to. So I think I think just taking risks with your content, and then ultimately also delivering or parlaying that with a product that people care about and people want to use, which for us is making that user experience as simple as possible. I think that's kind of the magic sauce right there in terms of just growing that community. So yeah, that's kind of what I would say has been a big help for us. I mean, there's also other things too, and I think back to our time or my time at Say, building out an ambassador program, right? Finding, being hyper specific about local markets as well globally. I mean, we work in a global industry. It's important to engage folks locally and meet them where they are. And so I think we did a pretty good job of that at Say. Been trying to replicate that at Omni as well. But yeah, there's no playbook to it, right? There's no recipe for success that's guaranteed. But always trying new things and taking risks, I would say, has been what's really helped us.
yeah, good stuff. I mean, that's definitely what I wanted people to hear because, look for most people look for those communities that are active and engaging. And sometimes, it's hard to keep, we can sit here and we can probably talk smack about a lot of meme coin communities. But the one thing they do right is the ones that do something right is they pump out a ton of content, keep people engaged,
Yeah.
communicate with the community. And that's really,
And the other thing to that point though is like so many good ideas are already out there. Like, take a look at some of the strongest communities in the space if you want to emulate them. Like, you could do that. All of it's out there. Like, I think Mana has done an exceptional job at this. Celestia originally did a great job at this. I think Injected does a good job. Say, like, the list goes on, right? Their content is out there. You can go to their profiles, go to their X profiles, go to their blogs, figure out what they did, what worked, what didn't. Take that, and pull things from it and use it. There's nobody's saying you can't do that. Yeah, I would say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of what we do in marketing. We see what's working, and occasionally
Yeah,
see people copy us. But that was whenever I took over the full growth side of our team at FIA where I'm at. I told them, I was like, okay, we need to at least triple our content output every day. Yeah, and they told me I was crazy. And we leverage some AI tools and stuff, but we're
yeah,
constantly putting stuff out, including this podcast that we do, which we'll chop up into reels and get it out there and tag people. So it's
yeah,
important to engage. And the reason I pivoted to that conversation, went from talking about user experience to community, I think those are two of the biggest things that needs to happen. Because when
yeah,
someone can feel like they're a part of a trusted community, they can ask questions, get questions answered, and not just go to Google and get scammed. So many 10 different ways or so
right,
many different ways. And so I think those are important. I mean, the tech is crucial, right? You got to have that base layer of tech. But I've seen some really great projects that have really great tech that just have not going anywhere. And I think that see the biggest lack is those two things: user experience and then also community. Like there's no big community behind it. And
yeah.
Not
Well,
to.
there's this notion that if I build something great, then people are just going to come and use it. Like, that's just it's just a massive fallacy. But I think another point there too is extending community past TGE. Right? I think it's fairly easy to you know pump up this community and prop it up and with all this stuff. Right? When folks and farmers are assuming and bots are assuming they're going to get rewarded.
Right.
I think it's a whole different ballgame if you can maintain that same sort of velocity after TG, which I think I'll be honest with our mainnet launch. A few weeks back, Omnis TG was back in April, but with this mainnet launch in December, I was thrilled to see the response from the community as part of that launch. And I think a lot of that had to do with a lot of the strong relationships that we have within the space, which have been a huge help. But also genuinely building a product that people are excited about. I think it's so much more than other launches in the past, and just super excited to see how it continues to take shape moving forward.
Absolutely. So, if you would sum up right now, outside of just community, in terms of builders, what are you guys looking for at Omni in terms of like builders?
Yeah, I would say we're focused on top protocols, right? For us, if you're building a protocol that is localized to one chain or a handful of chains, but you're interested in expanding, but you don't want to worry about those chain integrations, Omni could be for you. And so I think like examples like Symbiotic, right? They're only live on ETH mainnet. Personally, I'm a big fan of Morpho. I think Morpho's done an excellent job this cycle. I know they're live on ETH mainnet as well as Base. Who else? Trying to think of some others. Like GMX, I think is another great example. I know they're live on Arbitrum and maybe Avalanche. I can't remember. But I think protocols like that are only local to a couple chains, and perhaps they've dominated or done very well on those chains, but are also looking to accept deposits from additional chains, like in the case of GMX, Base or Optimism, right? That could be interesting because for these protocols, we are literally helping them expand their total addressable market, right? So users do not have to bridge over to Arbitrum to use GMX, right? They're able to just access those positions or trade from the account balances that they have where they're sitting. So I think it's just a massive point of removing friction for these users, and we're excited to connect to protocols that are keen to learn more about that.
Yeah, and I think that's important for builders to look into that and not just say, "Oh, well, we're already on two chains." I mean, you got to think the future is definitely multi-chain. There's going to be people operating across multiple chains, and what's going to kind of bring those all together? Because even within the EVM chains, I mean, that whole ecosystem is fragmented, and so we need layers that are going to kind of seamlessly. You're paving those roads right now, right? That's basically what you're doing for people, and that's an important step, important process. So
Yeah.
I like to focus a lot on people that are just trying to learn about crypto, but I know there's people that are building or working for company or projects that are building. So it's important to let that out there. Like just you should consider it. And I would think, everybody should just ask their community, what friction points do you see when you're using our products that are out there? Like what, if you were going to, or if you're an expert on, if you're going to help somebody brand new, where are their friction points? If you don't know, find somebody brand new and say, hey, try this out, give me some feedback. And I guarantee you 9 out of 10 times it's going to come back to the user experience. Just needs to be simplified.
Yeah, absolutely. And we like to say that, like, the best case scenario for us is that users are using Omni. They're uh, using our platform, using I guess I would say using Omni in the backend. They don't even realize they're using Omni. They're able to deposit into whatever app they want to use from whatever chain they're on today, instead of having to deal with those complexities of bridging and moving stuff back and forth. That can be
Yeah,
very cumbersome.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, Graham, I'm definitely looking forward to running into you guys. We'll definitely run into each other. I think at ETH Denver coming up here soon. But before we wrap up, can you tell everybody where they can find out more, maybe follow you, and also find out more about Omni?
Yeah, absolutely. My Twitter is Graham Fergs. That's GrahamFergs. And then our company Twitter is at Omni FND Omni Foundation. And then you can also see more at the Omni website, which is omni.network. So yeah, be sure to give us a follow. And then folks can always just DM me. My DMs are always open. Always keen to chat about this stuff. If anybody has questions, comments, suggestions, feedback, anything of the like, my ears are always open. So But yeah, Wayne, excited to see you in Denver, and excited for the year ahead. Should be a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking forward to 2025 to be a really good year. We've weathered the bad years, and now it's time for another round of good years. So, and I think there's a lot happening. We're going to see a lot more people with eyes on the space. So, this user experience narrative is so important, man. So, definitely looking forward to that. So, any final words for the audience before we wrap up?
I would say something I like to, it's just a piece of advice that I give everybody because I wish somebody would have told me when I first got into crypto. For anybody who's new and trying to get into the space, it's that nobody knows anything. So question everything. This is a frontier industry. There's a lot of opportunities. And people that seem to know everything probably don't. So question it all. Those are my parting words.
Yeah, good points, man. I think about my early days, and man, if I just had back some of that ETH I spent on ICOs, I'd probably be sitting
Oh,
better right now. But yeah, the same thing. We all live and learn through these markets. But you're right. Nobody knows. Nobody can predict the future. Nobody's going to be able to tell you this is going to make you a ton of money. All those people that are saying that, you're right. The more confident they are, the more you should question them.
exactly. That's exactly right.
Good tips, man. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on today. Definitely been a pleasure having you. And everybody, thanks for listening. And we will catch you on the next episode. Take care, everybody.